Hi, so this is my video response to something the Horror Man has put out there recently, where he invites people to answer 8 questions about slasher films. So here's my effort. The first question is, what is your best or your favourite standalone slasher film that is not part of a franchise? And for me it's 2005 or 2006, not sure, House of Wax. Bit of a contentious one, I guess, as it's technically a remake, but so maybe it doesn't qualify for this, but I picked that anyway. I like pretty much everything about this one, the characters, the setting, the special effects relating to the wax. Doesn't really have any major negatives for me. Maybe it's a tad unrealistic in a few areas, but it's a solid 10 out of 10 for me, one of my favourite slasher films, so that's my pick for that question. But here are a few other ones that I considered briefly that didn't quite make the final pick. That's Peeping Tom from 1960, bit of a proto-slasher, but very, very good stuff, one of my favourites. Just slightly predates Psycho. Another one that I considered, Valentine, much more recent, 2001. I think it's 2001 anyway, I could be wrong. Yeah, I like this one a lot, one of my favourite standalone slashers for sure, but didn't quite make the pick in the end. And a bit of an older one, Stage Fright, very, very good as well. I'm sure you've all seen that one. So those are some that didn't quite make it. But, so second question then, which was favourite mask / look for a killer. And I'm going with a bit of a boring one here, a bit of an obvious one, but I'm going to go with Halloween, Michael Myers. Probably the first slasher film that I ever saw. Obviously a classic, always stuck with me, the menacing figure of Michael Myers, and is a large part of the success of the film. And kind of his menace is largely down to the mask, simple yet effective, and very spooky at the same time. Definitely my favourite mask, I think. But to give you some that I also considered that didn't quite make it in the end, I think the Horror Man himself mentioned the hag mask in Curtains. That's very good, certainly one I considered. One that you may not have seen, a bit more obscure, Deep in the Woods, a French one. Saw it quite recently. Didn't actually like the film very much, wasn't very impressed with it, but the killer looks really good, to be fair. One of the strong points of it is the killer, who looks like a werewolf, kind of dressed like a wolf. It's one of the best animal costumes I've perhaps ever seen in a slasher film, or indeed in a horror film. Really, really good costume. Shame about the rest of the film. Another one that I considered, Smiley, quite interesting look to the killer in this one with the kind of potato head kind of thing. It's quite creepy though, it kind of seems silly, but it actually works quite well, I think. Another one, a bit of an obscure one, School's Out, the jester character in that. Maybe you've not heard of this one, but it's pretty good. Certainly got an interesting looking killer. So next question then, question number 3, favourite kill, and I'm going to go with one that I think Horrific Nightmares has already mentioned in his video, and that's the liquid nitrogen kill in Jason X. Definitely my favourite kill in the Friday the 13th franchise, and probably my favourite kill overall in any film as well, hence me picking it here. Definitely a good one. One more that I did consider is from Girl House, the kill with the dildo. Kind of sounds like it would be farcical, but the way they do it is actually really brutal and quite hard to watch actually, so yeah, that was considered as well. But ultimately I went with Jason X. Okay, the fourth question was favourite setting, and this is actually quite a hard one for me to answer. I wasn't really sure what to go with, but in the end I went with the one that I've already mentioned, Stage Fright, the theatre setting. I was, like I say, really unsure about this one, but I think the old theatre was kind of a huge part of what made this film so good for me. And I like the acting angle that is introduced quite early on, that obviously makes up the film and goes with it. And the killer, I think her name was Corinne, I could be wrong about that, but how they kind of integrated her kill into the acting so that people didn't know what was going on at first and didn't know that he was actually a real killer. I like the way they did that. So I'm going to go with the theatre from Stage Fright. I guess it's also been seen maybe in some other slasher films like this one, Clown at Midnight. So I'm going to go with that. The fifth one was favourite final girl, and I'm going to go with this one, Curse of Chucky, and I think her name was Nika from this one. I liked how she was in a wheelchair, obviously at a bit of a disadvantage, but she still gave Chucky the run around and gave him a good battle, so I want to go with her. Some others that I considered for this one but ultimately didn't go with was the Jamie Lee Curtis character from Terror Train. Obviously a legendary scream queen, but I think this is probably one of her best performances. And I really think the sort of chase scene, battle scene with the killer towards the end was one of the best that we've seen in slasher films, largely down to the Jamie Lee Curtis performance. Another one that I considered that I like as well, Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning. Chrissy from this was a really sympathetic character and a really kind of brave character as well. Certainly tried her best to save her friends and often to her own detriment put them before her, so she was a good one. And finally, one more to mention is Constance, or Connie, from Just Before Dawn. Kind of went through a transformation from being a bit dowdy and kind of quiet at the start, and she became kind of more sexy and fierce towards the end, and her method of dealing with the killer at the very end as well was certainly unique. So she deserves an honourable mention. Okay, the next question was I think most overrated slasher film. I couldn't really pick out one here, so I'm going to go with four, kind of a four-way tie. Just ones that I kind of didn't really like that much that I generally considered to be pretty good. First one is Silent Night, Bloody Night. I didn't like it much at all, to be honest. It started off quite well, but quickly went downhill. Didn't like that much. Another one, April Fool's Day, the original. Again, I didn't really like this. Not because of the ending, because I've seen some other slasher films that have got a similar ending and I don't mind those, but one of which we've already briefly seen earlier on in my video, but this one I just didn't like it. Can't put my finger on why, but it just didn't sit well with me. Another one, Graduation Day. Again, it's kind of obviously seen as being very cheesy, but people seem to like it, but for me, didn't really do it. Didn't do it for me, I wasn't very keen on it. And finally, the other one that I'm tying in with all this is Maniac Cop 2. Not a huge fan of this franchise in general, but this one is sometimes considered to be the best of the series, but for me it was the worst of the trilogy, so I'm going to put that out there as well. Seventh question was, I think, most underrated. I'm going to go with the remake of Prom Night, because it's just generally absolutely hated among slasher fans, but for me, I've really liked it. The only drawbacks for me was the fact that the killer was, there's kind of like no mystery surrounding the killer, and he didn't have a very good look. He just kind of looked like he didn't have any mask or costume to speak of. So that was a bit disappointing, and there was very little gore, but apart from that, I liked everything about the movie. I really liked it. I believe I gave it a 9 out of 10 on my website, so you can tell from that I was a big fan, but generally hated. Others that I considered were something that I've only recently started watching. I've started on this Camp Blood franchise, and I've been really impressed with it. Again, like Prom Night remake, gets an awful lot of hate, absolutely disliked intensely with a passion among most slasher fans. I think mainly because it's such like a low budget film. It does look terrible picture quality wise, this particular one, but I think it's packed full of charm, a great homage to the genre, and I really liked it. Looking forward to checking out more films in this series. I'm so far up to number 3, and I'm liking them all so far, so looking forward to more. Another one that I considered for this was X-Ray, generally overlooked when it comes to kind of Valentine's Day slashers. But I actually prefer it to My Bloody Valentine. I only compare the two because they're obviously both centred around Valentine's Day, but I like this one a lot more than some of the more popular slasher films of the day. And finally, one more that I considered, actually I've got two more. Spiral Staircase, very much a proto-slasher. Well, it's not even really a slasher, but it's more of a kind of film noir kind of thing. But it does contain slasher elements that will later become prevalent in the genre as it was born in the 80s, so I think it kind of deserves more recognition as a early proto-slasher that inspired, well, not a slasher, like I said, but something that inspired later slasher films. And last one that I've got that was also considered for the most underrated is the Burning Moor Incident. This is the UK edition, so it's called Reality Kills, but I think in the States it's better known as the Burning Moor Incident, which is, I only got this a 7 out of 10 on my website recently, so it's not like I was blown away by it, but it's certainly unique. It's got kind of like a found footage mixed with a slasher film, so it's very much its own animal, and it kind of sets itself apart from all the others that I've seen, so it's worth checking out. It's not great, but it's certainly different and worth your time because of that fact. Okay, last question. I don't actually own a physical copy of this one to show you. It was the favourite gratuitous scene, or kind of nude scene, I guess, and I couldn't really pick one out in particular, so did something a bit different, and I picked Sleepaway Camp The Survivor. I don't actually have a physical copy, like I said. I watched it on YouTube, but absolutely dreadful film. I gave it a 1 out of 10 on my website. But the one kind of strand of gold in a very large hay pile was the, I think the name was, let me see, Carrie Chambers, maybe, I believe, played the lead role, and she would at least look good in a bikini. She didn't actually get nude, so it's a bit of a funny response for me to pick this one out, but she was wearing a bikini when she was on screen, and she looked pretty good in that, so as I was watching the film, I was thinking it's all terrible. There's barely any good points that I can pick out, but at least she looks good in her bikini. So there's one small saving grace there. So at least we got some eye candy from it. But dreadful film, dreadful film. Couldn't recommend it at all. But bit of a weird choice, but I'll go with that. Sorry for there was no physical copy to show you there. But anyway, thanks for watching and goodbye.